Welcome to the Bywords Show. I'm your host, Hannah Hughes. Bywords is all about equipping women for purposeful living by starting conversations, celebrating stories, and inspiring faith. In a world that applauds the hustle, I'm here to help you break free from the lies and come back to what really matters. It's time to get real, get rooted in truth, and come alive in relationship with Jesus so you can show up to each day with intention and confidence no matter where you're at in your story. Here we believe that embracing our stories brings hope, healing, and purpose to the process, and sharing our stories helps others do the same. Whether you're looking for a midweek faith refresh, practical tools for pursuing your dreams, or just need some good old-fashioned girl talk, you're in the right place. Grab your latte and let's dive in. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Bywords Show. I am so glad you're here today. Today's going to be a fun one. We've got a Q&A. I asked you guys on Instagram if you had any questions for me. I haven't done one in a while. Christopher and I were actually planning on doing a Q&A around Valentine's Day, but life just got crazy and we didn't get to it. So I was like, you know what? Let's do another Q&A. Let's catch up. Let's chat. But before we get started, I would love to ask a quick favor of you. If you listen to the Bywords Show regularly, or maybe it's your first time here, if you enjoy listening, would you please take a second and leave a review on Apple? It really helps the show reach more women. It helps me know that this show is encouraging you and it's supporting you and giving you the content that you want and need to help you feel equipped for living your purpose. And it also just makes my day. Literally, when I read these reviews, it brings me into tears. I just love you guys so much, and I love that we get to share this space. So if you don't mind, just hit pause on Apple Podcasts if that's where you're listening. You can scroll all the way down to the bottom, write your written review, and that's pretty much it. So once you've done that, come right back and let's dive into this. So first question, how is Della, and how is adjusting to having two kids? Two kids is wild. But it has honestly been the sweetest thing ever. Well, okay, let me answer the first part first. How is Della? She's an angel girl. She's honestly just so sweet and full of joy. And it's cool because her middle name is Joy, so Della Joy. And there was just so much prayer that went into this journey. If you've listened for a while, you know my story with miscarriages. And even before that, I felt like God had promised us a daughter and had spoken to me and given me dreams and things about having a daughter. And so now that she's here, she's just such an answered prayer and such a testimony of God's goodness because she truly is such a source of joy in our life. She's really like the happiest baby. She's so sweet, so goofy, so funny. It's just, she's at an age now where she's about to be 9 months this month in May, and you can just see her personality coming out, and it's so fun to see her just playing with her brother and interacting with us and taking everything in. It has just been so sweet and we're loving it. Having two kids is definitely wild. I will say the craziest thing is when Christopher is gone, because he does travel for work quite a bit and he works long days as well. He's a wedding photographer. If you didn't know, that's my husband's job. And so the long days with two kids are sometimes rough, but thankfully we've had good weather for a while and now it's starting to get really hot and gross in Texas. So we're figuring that out. We've had a lot of days where we've just run errands and then come home for a bit and then run more errands. It's like, what excuse can I have to run errands or get out of the house or do something? We've gone to the library. We've just tried to find any kind of free entertainment that we can do to keep ourselves busy. But honestly, it's been so sweet. Our kids are 4 years apart, almost on the dot. And at first, y'all know, I've shared in my story before, we obviously we're not planning to have such a large age gap between our kids, but it's worked out really well because Jude is so independent and he has just been great with Ella, loves her so much. They're obsessed with each other. It's so cute. But yeah, he's a really big helper and just loves being a big brother. And it's great. I can set boundaries. He understands hey, I need to be with Ella right now. And there's always going to be sibling chaos. I feel like when you have kids of any age, there's going to be some sort of craziness, but really we're in such a sweet season and I'm so thankful. So that's the update on the kids and we're doing it. We're just doing the thing. It's so funny. I was talking to a friend of mine who just had a baby and she was saying, it's so crazy how you just do it. You just know you do anything for your kid. Once you're a parent, you just are a mom. You just start doing the mom thing. It doesn't matter how crazy the situation is. you just do it. And if you're a mom, you probably understand that. But that's how it feels a lot of the time, even on crazy days, even on emotional days for me, even on days when all the plans are out the window. We just try to make the best of it. And I honestly am so thankful that I have stopped fighting my season. I've talked a lot about that recently, but I'm just in a season currently where I'm learning not to fight or resist the place God has me in, because I tend to push or rush or want to go at a quicker pace, whether it's in my business or other goals that I have in my health journey. And a lot of the time, I feel like God wants to set the pace for us, not because he's withholding or, like punishing us, or I feel like it's a gift. And I just realized, sometimes God sets the pace slower because he loves us, because he has good things for us in this season that he doesn't want us to rush through and miss. And so I'm just truly, really thankful that I haven't had a ton on my plate and that it's been really slow. And I've had so much quality time with the kids in this season. And yeah, it's been good. It's been challenging, of course, but it's been really, really sweet. And I'm grateful. Second question is that a snake wrapped around a sword? Someone was asking this in reference to my tattoo on my arm. I'm showing if you're watching on the video. Yeah. So when I posted the question box for this Q&A, I was like, I had my arm in it or something. And someone asked about it. And I realized I haven't ever done an episode about my tattoos, which I know is kind of random, but people have requested that. I have quite a few tattoos, if you didn't know. I have mostly my left arm is covered, and I started getting tattoos when I was 18. I knew what I wanted. And here's the thing. I always tell people, if you want to get a tattoo, wait like 6 months to a year. And if you still want it or you still like it, then go for it. But like tattoos, everyone talks about how like, oh, are you going to regret it? Or I've had people say like, oh, don't you know that's going to be on your body forever? Yes, I do. Like, that's why I got the tattoo. You know what I mean? So anyway, I do have quite a few tattoos, but I've never done a dedicated session where I've like done a tattoo tour or anything like that, which I think would be really fun. So let me know if you have any interest in that at all. Maybe I'll do like a bonus episode on YouTube or something about that for those who are interested. But the tattoo she is referring to is actually my most recent. Wait, no, that's a lie. I have this butterfly on the outside of my forearm. That's my most recent. But the one I got before that is this snake. Let me see if I can show you on the screen. I don't know. It's kind of in a weird position where I can't really show you on the screen. There we go. Okay, so it is a snake wrapped around a dagger, but the dagger is going through its head. And that probably sounds like really gruesome. And it kind of is. But the symbol or the meaning behind it for me is that the sword of the spirit, word of God, always wins. Truth always wins. The enemy may try to knock us down, lie to us, convince us that it's not worth it, but in the end, truth wins. And so this is just my reminder, like clinging to truth. Don't give in. Like, it may be hard, it may be a battle sometimes, but truth wins. And we have that weapon. It's cool. Like, if you look at Ephesians 6, where it talks about the armor of God, the sword of the spirit is our only offensive weapon. Everything else is defensive. We've got a shield, a helmet, a belt of truth, shoes, all that is defensive, but our offensive weapon is the word of God, the sword of the spirit, the truth. So that is just my little reminder to myself. Like, when I have hard times, I have to remember, like, we're in a battle. Spiritual warfare is real. That's another episode I would love to dive into. Let me know if anybody's interested in that. There's so much to that. But in a nutshell, that's what this tattoo symbolizes for me. And all of my tattoos have stories. So I would love to share them if you're interested. Next question. Will you be doing more By Words events? Oh, you guys, I'm so happy that you loved the By Words events. I did like some experimental things. I've never done events before. It was so funny. I've talked to my friend Belle, who's been on the show, and also she's a podcaster. Y'all need to go connect with her if you haven't already, but she is the best when it comes to planning events. And she was like my right-hand man, who honestly was the magic behind all the By Words Gather events, because I had no idea what I was doing, but it was really so fun doing community events, because when I started By Words in 2020, obviously that's when the world was shut down. Everybody was feeling isolated. Everybody was craving community. And I really wanted to create a space where women could come and feel like they could talk about the hard things and process where they were at in their journey, where they were at in their faith, and find resources, whether it was for healing or for setting goals or being more intentional in their life. And all of those things. I just wanted to create a hub for women to come and find it all in one spot. So that was the heart behind By Words in the beginning, when I created just the Facebook community group, which still exists, but there's not a lot going on there, which, let me just give you like For those listening, a sneak peek that nobody else knows about, my dream eventually for Bywords is to create a membership community where we can do pretty much what we were doing in the Facebook group. Y'all, it was so fun. If you were there from the beginning of Bywords, it before the podcast, we had this Facebook group where I would have my friends come and do like live workshops and trainings in the group. They're actually still available. So if you join the Facebook group, I think it's just the Bywords community group, you can go and access all those trainings. I did a social media training. We've done trainings about like marriage and relationships, time management, like you name it. We've done a whole lot of workshops, and we've done virtual workshops as well. So I just love having resources like that, making them available for free. But I would love to create a membership community later on where we do more of that at like a VIP level, where you can get more access, more resources, extra podcast episodes and content and things like that. So that's where I'm dreaming towards. But circling back to the events, I started doing the events, the Bywords Gather, last year because I just missed that aspect of Bywords, and I wanted to bring it back into the picture because once I started doing the podcast, that's really been my main focus for the last 3 years, which, by the way, this month marks 3 years of the Bywords podcast, and I just cannot believe that. Uh, I just am so overwhelmed with gratitude that you guys have come along on this journey with me, and it's been crazy wild. Like so much has happened in that time, but I am so happy and honored to again share this space with you and to have made it 3 years. So thank you. I wish we could all get together and have a party. But the Bywords events, I really just wanted to bring it back to that community piece because I feel like although I love talking about these topics, I miss the relational piece. So long story short, to answer your question, yes, my hope is that we will be doing more Bywords events in the future. Maybe not in Texas, which you will know more about very soon, but I would love to do destination retreats. I would love to do conferences and workshops and meetups in different places. So cool. I've connected with so many of you in different parts of the country and parts of the world. And I mean, I have larger than life dreams for Bywords. So who knows where it will end up. But right now I'm trusting the Lord that he will connect me with the right people at the right time in the right places, and that will all come together. But yes, the short answer is yes. Whether it's virtual or in person, we will absolutely do more Bywords Gather events. So if you want to do something like that in your city, let me know and we can start brainstorming and dreaming together. I think that'd be so much fun. Next question. What do you do for budgeting and finances? This one, I was really not sure how to answer because we are in a really interesting season of life right now. We've been in a transition for a really long time. We've had so many random things happen with cars lately, which, if you didn't know, like recently I talked about this in an episode. We were on a trip, road trip, visiting my grandparents, and my car just broke down on the side of the road. So just life happening, it's just life. And we were supposed to move in September. We were going to close on a house, and 3 days before it happened, it all fell through. And so we are still currently living in our barn dominium, which has been an adventure, but we are just, again, in a transition season. My husband and I are both self-employed. So all of that to say, finances and budgeting have been a journey. And although we are not experts, I definitely am still learning, and I have a lot of like things to work through for money and my mindset around money and things like that. I have learned a lot, and there are a few simple things I thought maybe I could share that could be applied to anyone in any season of life because again, we're still learning. It still looks really different month to month for us as far as our income. So planning around like, owning your own business and busy seasons versus slow seasons of life and just not really knowing. We'll also have to do an episode about this. I pulled on Instagram and asked if you guys wanted to hear more about money, and a ton of you said yes. So I would love to share more about that. We actually do have a few episodes on the show, and I'll link them in the show notes for you guys who want to go back and listen. Episodes 11 and 12 with Hannah Higgins, taking it all the way back, where we talked about stewarding your finance as well. And then another episode, I want to say it's like 23 or something, but it's with Jen Williams, and we talked about intentional spending. That's also another great episode about money, but we need to circle back around and do an updated episode. But in the meantime, here are a few things that have helped us no matter what kind of season we're in financially, because we've struggled. We've had seasons of abundance. We've had seasons of little. We've had to be flexible, but these are a few things that we have done consistently that I think have really, really helped us financially. So, first thing is tithing. That is a non negotiable for us. Christopher and I have just decided from the beginning of our marriage, when we started talking about money, even before we were married, we decided that tithing was non negotiable. We decided that it is going to be something that we don't budge on, that it's going to be the first. Like, we believe that God is our provider, that He is the one who makes a way for us to be able to work. He provides opportunities for us to work. He provides for all of our needs. So, like, the least we can do is give Him back that 10% that He asks us to do. And then we also just believe that sowing into your local church is also super important. We were actually in a transition season with churches lately, and we were trying to figure out how to go about tithing when we weren't like plugged in somewhere. And someone gave me this advice, which, in case you're in a transition season or not plugged into a local church either, maybe this is helpful for you if you want to tithe or start tithing, or figure out where to put that money for now. We decided to tithe to a local organization that is doing kingdom work. So we've seen that they have fruit, that their stewardship of their money is making an impact in our community, and we have decided to support them. So we just tied to a local organization while we were in between churches. And so that's something you could do while you're not plugged into a church, but just pray about it and God will show you how to steward your money well. Second thing is physically writing out a budget. There are also apps like Every Dollar. I think there's another one that's like Honeydew or something. There's a lot of budgeting apps, but for me, sometimes pen and paper is where the magic happens. So even if you don't stick to it perfectly, I feel like you've got to have an idea of where your money is going if you really want it to be fruitful. So for us, it's looked like just sitting down. It could be once a week, it could be once a month, but like, if you're starting from scratch on this, something you could do is, this is what I usually do. I write out all of our monthly recurring bills. So this would be things like rent, utilities, car payments, insurance, healthcare, those kinds of things. Then we have another category that's like extra things that are recurring, or subscriptions, school, something like that. So like we have our son's school, our Spotify bill, like random stuff like that. And then a column with other necessary expenses like gas, groceries, XYZ. So usually from there, we map out what those expenses look like. Maybe you don't have a solid number on gas or groceries, but if you're able to go look through your bank accounts, bank statements, and see like, this is exactly how much we spend on insurance a month, those kinds of examples. Write out as many solid numbers as so that you can get an actual idea of what you are spending in a month. Sometimes that's shocking if you haven't actually taken inventory of your finances for a while, so don't be afraid, but just think from there. If you need to make adjustments, what can you do? Do you need to be putting more in savings? Do you need to be cutting back on some subscriptions that you don't really use? This is something where lately I have my Kindle. I love my Kindle, but I really haven't been reading on it as much lately. I've been listening more to audiobooks or reading physical books. So I decided to cancel my Kindle Unlimited subscription until I will use it again. And that's something where it's like, if you have a recurring subscription or a service that you don't use regularly, cancel it. You don't need it. Like, where can you shave off extra expenses that you could be putting somewhere else? So that's something that we do regularly, is like check in and see like, okay, is this something that we're still using? Is this a necessary expense? Or if we're in a tighter season, it's like, okay, can we be a little bit tighter on our grocery budget? Can we try to cut back on, XYZ, whatever it looks like? It's going to look different for everybody. There are a million different approaches to budgeting. I am definitely not an expert, but there are a lot of free resources online. So if you need help for specifics, I'd say like go talk to an expert and not me. But that's something you could do just to get an idea of where you're at currently. I feel like we can't make progress until we know where we are at currently. So start there, write it all out, and then take a look at your income. Does it balance out? Like, are you spending more than you're making in a month? If so, what do you need to cut? If you're making more than you're spending in a month, that's great. Do you have an excess? Could you be saving? Could you invest it? Those kinds of things. And then again, I'm not a pro at this. Money is actually one of my biggest stressors, but it's something that I have been learning a lot about lately, and I'm learning to trust God more. So I'm excited to hopefully have an episode about this soon where we can talk more about it. So let me know if you have specific questions, or if you know somebody who's an expert so we can have them come and teach us. Last few thoughts on the money thing, and then we can move to the last question. I'll wrap this up. But I just want to share a couple simple tips. Something that has been a game changer for me personally when it comes to money is making a wish list. So instead of impulse shopping, because, the Instagram ads, they'll get you. But instead of just buying something while you're out shopping because you're like, oh my gosh, it's so cute, I have to have it, put it on a wish list. And kind of like the tattoo thing, if you still want it in a month, 3 months, 6 months, or whenever you have the money to spend on it, I'm not saying you don't ever buy anything for yourself. Like if you have allotted spending money or if you have the means to just get yourself something nice, like do it. But for me, to combat impulse spending, what I do is I make a wish list. I either have it like a Pinterest board of things that are a wish list, or I'll literally write it on a note in my phone where it's like, ooh, I would love to get this. And the funny thing is, a lot of times I'll look at that list 6 months later and be like, what? I don't want that anymore. Like, I'm glad I didn't spend money on that because I actually really don't care about it. It was just trendy, or it was just like something in the moment that I thought would be really nice to have, but really it wouldn't make a difference in my life. So doing that is really helpful. And also it teaches you to like wait for things, to save up for things. I feel like we need to normalize saving up for things rather than impulse shopping. And I could get on a whole soapbox about consumerism and fast fashion and all those kinds of things, but I won't. And I'll right along with that, you can communicate with your spouse before spending like big purchases, just for the accountability as well. Or maybe you have like a friend or a mentor who could be accountability for you if that's something you struggle with. But definitely talking through it with somebody always helps me, because then it's like, do I really want it that bad? And someone else can be like, do you really need it right now? And just help you, troubleshoot that. And then lastly, if you want something new, see if you can borrow, rent, or find it secondhand first. Y'all know I love thrifting. I could talk about it all day, but it's really so amazing what you can find secondhand or for free. Like I was just talking to someone this week about how you can actually rent out games from the public library. Did you know this? Like you can rent out movies, you can rent out board games, you can rent out STEM kits, like science kits and things for your kids to play with. You can even rent out passes to like botanic gardens or things like that. So there are resources where you can find things either thrifting or, community places like that. It will amaze you, I'm sure, if you just start looking on Facebook Marketplace or secondhand before you go and spend a ton of money if you're in a season where you need to save a little more. So those are my money tips. Again, nothing probably transformative and life-changing, but that is what's helped us. Last thing, what's your biggest recent life change? And it is that we are moving. And I'm actually going to record an episode about this and I'll share all the details with you guys. But I have been saying we are in a transition season for such a long time, and it is finally coming to a close. And we feel so relieved and excited and hopeful and just anticipating all that God has in store for us in this next season. We feel like we've just been in a push season for so long, and now there's a light at the end of the tunnel. It's so encouraging when you finally can get out of that limbo transition season. It just has felt like life has been so up in the air for so long. Also, sorry, the kids just got home with Christopher. So if you're hearing background noise, that's what's going on. But yeah, so more info on that to come. But yeah, I love you guys. I'm so excited to just talk more about all the things. I know this episode was kind of like opening up a can of worms about a bunch of different topics, and then we didn't really get deep on any of them. But if you want to hear more about any of these topics, let me know, and I'd be happy to do a deep dive on them in a future episode. But that's what's been going on with us. Hope you guys have a great weekend. I love you guys so much, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to tune into another episode of the Byword Show. I love having you here, and I am truly so thankful for your support. Don't forget to share a screenshot of this episode to let me know you were here. And quick favor, if you enjoyed this episode, would you take a second to leave a review? It really helps our community grow. If you want more, you can shop my books Waking Up and Love Is at thehannahhughes.com or on Amazon. And be sure to join my email list for all the latest news. I can't wait to chat again soon, but in the meantime, be sure to come connect with me on social media, and remember, I'm cheering you on.